Well, it's 7 o'clock and it's July 10th, so this must be Documentors. I'm Dr. Ivy
And
Peltz.
I'm Dr. Eric Studley.
We are the founders of Doccupations, and we're here to talk to you today about how to find and why we need work-life balance. And this is a topic of very deep concern and enjoyment, I think, for the two of us because our viewpoints are slightly different from each other. So it's something we get to talk about a lot.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So before we really get into the heart of this, let's get a little bit of the commercial out of the way. So of course, this is all about Doccupations. So we would really love you guys to follow us on our social media, share our pages so others in the dental community can learn about us as well. And please join. We're really rocking out there. And once again, the help that you guys give us signing up and becoming members help us get this out to the community. So thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to get started with our topic today about all work and no play, or all play and no work, and how do you find a balance between the two. So I like to call fake things with an F in front of their name. So like fake eggs, I call fegs, and fake bacon, I call fakin. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I want to call autonomy, because a lot of dentists go into the profession thinking that they're going to be autonomous. You want to be able to create your own schedule, decide when you're going to take vacation time, decide who you're going to treat, when in reality, you don't really get to choose those things at all. So you have a little bit of autonomy going on, not autonomy. So there are all these things that you think that you can control when you're in the dental profession that really you can't. So instead of answering to a boss, if you're your own practice owner, every one of your patients becomes your boss. If they want to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and you want to start at 10, you're starting at 8, they're your boss. So,
but you know what?
Yeah.
I do have to interject.
Please
and
do.
I will tell you, only because since starting, as a new dentist, or when I started, as a new insurance advisor, initially, yes, you really are driven by your patients, by your clients, because if they can come in at 6 in the morning, and believe me, when I first started practicing, I saw patients at 6 in the morning. So initially they are driven. But one of my mentors said to me, over time you will develop a certain level of importance and expertise to those patients, and they will start to fit your schedule. Well, I know I fit my doctor's schedule.
I completely agree with that. And those of you who know me know that I prescribe to that you can train your patients. But that takes a while.
Oh, yeah, that's not
It doesn't happen right away. And in the meantime, what can happen is that you lose your perspective because you so desperately want to hold on to every patient that you start to work to live. Right. Am I getting this right?
Right.
No, you're living to work rather than working to live. Right. You want to be working to live. You want the work to support the life. That's the objective, at least in my opinion. Now, this is where Dr. Studley and I don't always see eye to eye, because he is comfortable with a much higher level of work in his day than I am. So this should be an interesting discussion, and we hope that you'll all participate by sending in your comments and questions. But what we want to talk about is how to maintain your mental and physical health while doing what you need to do to create a successful practice.
Right. So here's some of the things that you may want to start incorporating in your daily life. And as simple as it sounds, as we start to talk about this, you'll realize that as simple as it is, most of us don't do those things. I'm huge on organization.
Yes.
Over the last 30 plus years, I've maintained working 3 more or less full-time positions. And everybody has always said, how do you do that? Well, it starts with, the simplest thing of being organized. Organization to me creates efficiency. And certain things that we can do that we can control, right? What did you say? If it's predictable, then it's preventable. So then prevent it.
Yes, I have said that.
So it's really the same thing. You know you're going to have to wake up at a certain time. You're going to have to wear certain type of clothes. You're going to have to, do certain things in order to get to work. So why don't you do those things and plan for those ahead?
Exactly. So what Dr. Studley is referring to is the night before you can actually select your clothing. And for those of you who, like me, may be more fussy about that, you really have to try the clothes on, because there's nothing worse than thinking that you have everything all planned for the morning and then getting up, putting on your clothing and realizing that you can't stand how you look, and now you have to start all over again and the clock is ticking.
And very rarely have I ever had a catastrophe where I didn't have the right color pantyhose.
Well, you're lucky.
I will tell you that, so I would have had my pantyhose out the night before as well. But when we talk about preparing that for the morning, why is that important? Because then it also frees up additional time in the morning. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is starting your day off on the right foot. And that's whether you're doing some type of exercise for yourself. And if somebody says to me, well, I don't have 15, 20 minutes in the morning for myself, then you really are not planning your day properly.
So there are two pieces of that. I believe that since we're all caregivers, it's very easy for us to lose ourselves in the shuffle of taking care of everybody else. So if you are leaving yourself for last, you're never going to get to you. So we are both very strict adherents of taking literally 15 minutes, if that's all we have, and making sure that we do something healthy for ourselves in the form of exercise to start our morning. And then we both feel a little more cared for by ourselves, which is so important for you to then go out and care for everybody else.
Right. Well, it makes you, it's so funny the way athletes prepare for the game. Why should it be any different as workers not preparing for the day? And that exercise, some type of exercise, and then once again, you have to really have that so it fits into your schedule. That's why I'm also very big on doing it first thing in the morning, because first of all, 8 million other things seem to pile up as the day progresses. And also to put those things off, I'm very big on doing the tasks that you don't like to do first and the easier tasks later. Whereas human nature loves to get the easier stuff done, and then we seem to pile, and we pile, and we pile. And that seems to build up. So get the stuff you don't want to do, get that done first, and it gets done a lot faster.
I don't know why that part was so hard for me to learn, but one day, not that long ago, my sister said to me, do what you have to do and then do what you want to do, and it all clicked into place for me. So maybe it will for some of you. And Jared has the thought, he said, I always ask myself, did I take a shower or did I earn a shower in the morning? I like that. That's
I like
very
that.
nice.
So yes, I feel I earn a shower because
Yeah.
I work in the morning to get into that shower.
Yeah. A shower is a great reward for that workout.
So good question. Thanks, Jared.
And sometimes when it's hard to get yourself going with something, then sometimes you might want to start with some easier tasks just to build up your self-confidence and see that you can get something done. It's like the worst thing in the world when you have so many things to do and you're feeling overwhelmed and you can't even get started. Start with the low-hanging fruit. Get rid of the easy items. You'll see your list get smaller and you'll probably start to feel a little better about it. So I also realized very late in my life that I think that what I've always called procrastination has actually been development time. because a lot of the times I can't get myself to do something, especially something that has a certain amount of creativity involved. And then when I finally sit down to do it at the very last minute of the deadline, it just pours out of me like it was there the whole time. But I think what's actually happening with procrastination is that for some of us, we're developing our thoughts. We're coming up with whatever it is that we need to. So I would ask you to give yourself a break when that happens and stop being so hypercritical of yourself, because then you go into this weird spin where you really can't get anything done at all. And I think it's important to acknowledge that we need downtime. So this is where we differ quite a bit, is I need a lot more downtime than this one does.
Right.
But without downtime, your brain is just so overcharged all the time that you're not giving yourself time to come up with creativity and productivity. So I think sometimes you have to just slow yourself down to even produce some results. And an example of that is, we're back to the shower again. It's like we have some little shower thing going on today, but when you're in the shower, I know that I get a ton of ideas when I'm in the shower because I'm relaxed and I'm not really thinking about anything else.
And you don't have your phone with you.
Good point. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a biggie.
So and they do say that so many ideas do come up in the shower. I find doing tasks around the house, I know, and especially this time of year, doing weeding, gardening, I find I come up with so many great ideas because my mind seems to be cleared of other cluster, and I'm just focusing on weeding,
Yeah,
or watering.
it's what I call mindless activities. So if you manage during your break to stay productive doing something, then you feel good about it instead of feeling, so down on yourself because you didn't do what you thought you needed to be doing but weren't really ready to do yet. So it's good if you can do something, just like Dr. Studley was talking about with weeding or anything around the house is always, wash the dishes, make yourself a healthy dinner, do something, get to exercise.
I have to tell you, I have dental offices that, they do lunch with their staff, as opposed to like a formal staff meeting. And afterwards, like, who's ever running, it's just a lunch, but because everybody is sort of off a little bit,
relaxed.
At that point, they end up with sort of discussions that turn into unbelievable meetings and just great ideas. So that's just a way to sneak in something to your office without them really knowing how beneficial this lunch is turning out to be. And
now it's time for another Doccupations commercial.
So once again, we're Doccupations, and we really want you guys to keep following us on our social media. Share our pages with all your friends, all your community, all the dental groups that you're with, and just get everybody to join, because the greater the numbers, the greater the employees, and it just creates greater access for everybody. So keep it coming. I feel like this is like a telethon. It's kind of nice to be able to talk about certain things after you've gone through a lot of things in your own life. But when you look at things, looking down, you start to see what were some of the most important things that really come to be the most important things. And I have to tell you, even from, teaching all these years, I will say I've probably learned so much from some of my students, even one of the persons who's, actually just sent us one of the questions. And you start to realize at the end of the day, all of your success, what is it measured by? And it really is family. Because at the end of the day, family just knows when you're not there, and when you are there. And when you talk to everybody, nobody ever really talks at the end about, the dollars. It's really all the family. And I've learned that over the years, that really becomes the greatest treasure. But I've actually learned that from some of the persons that are actually listening to us right now, and you know who you are. But you really have to put that in family priorities. That's your first thing. Exercise, sleep, because you really can't be functional without it.
Yeah. So the point is that, if all you're thinking about is work, if you lose your perspective, if you forget about your priorities, then that's when you start slipping into this imbalance of all work and no play that can become unhealthy, not only for you, but for the people that you really care about.
Right? What did Jack Nicholson say in The Shining?
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Right.
Exactly.
So we don't want that.
So Samir, I think, has a question. Let's see. As a single business owner, when you are working 6 to 8 almost every day, and your staff and patients drive you nuts, how do you manage that? And how do you take your mind off of business and also have life issues? And yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about, is how to organize. The first thing we talked about was organizing yourself, because part of the problem is that you have so much to do. So if you stay organized, then at least the time that you have is better spent on these other priorities, like your family, exercising, yourself, all of that. But it is difficult when your hours are so long. As we suggested, we keep emphasizing exercise because we really believe that in order to have a healthy mind, you have to have a healthy body. And there's no way that you can practice dentistry without a healthy body. It just doesn't happen.
But you know what? I will tell you, if you also start to incorporate some of the things that maybe you do in your private life with exercise, like you were always into yoga. I got into yoga. All of a sudden now I have yoga in my office once a week. So now I've incorporated that into the office. And now a lot of the mindset starts to become more similar. And you're using your time well spent at your office, that you now do have some downtime in the office. So if it's for yoga or for something like that, like, just lunch for the staff kind of thing, that might also help to relieve some of the stress that's going on during the day. Because we talk about enlisting others to help you with some of the stress that's going on in the office.
But if you're working from 6 to 8, so an important thing would be, as we said earlier, to make sure you exercise before you start devoting your entire day to everybody else, because you need to know that you're spending a tiny bit of attention on yourself. When you take little breaks, try to check out of dentistry for a few minutes and maybe think about something else. Just give your mind little mini breaks from the course of your day.
And you know what, Samir? Get up a little extra early, bang out 20 minutes aerobically, something, and then get to work. The payoff is worth it.
And I think also another mistake that some of us make is living dentistry every minute of every day. So when you're not practicing it, you're reading about it, or you're talking to your colleagues about it, or you're on a Facebook group about it. And you have to take little breaks from it. You have to develop other interests, or do good in some other way. Go visit a nursing home. Learn something new, take up a new hobby. Just let your mind expand outside of the dentistry, because that's going to create fatigue even when you're not at work.
Right, but you can download yoga app, 15-minute sessions that you can get into. And you'd be surprised the benefits that would give you to start your day.
And the other thing that I would say is, once you realize what your priorities are after some serious, soul searching, you need to make them your priorities by actually putting them on your calendar. They're just as important as your work day. So, your child's dress rehearsal for the play needs to go onto the calendar, or your exercise regimen onto the calendar. And it's just as important to adhere to that as it is to everything else on your calendar.
Right, and I kind of touched on it before, ask for help. So we all do a gazillion things, business owner, dentist, that's like one portion, some of us, husband, wife, aunt, uncle, cousin, brother, sister. It like the list just keeps going on. So we just have so many things. My biggest thing is, number one, ask for help, but build that right team. Put the time in to build the support staff around you. It's worth, number one, paying for it. So if you have to pay a little bit more to get the right people, you will actually earn more money in the long run that way. It will also take off so much of the burden. Make sure that you're hiring the right people to handle the right jobs. Because if you have to step in too much, maybe you don't have the right staff around you. And if you really start to, feel the anxiety and the stresses of daily living, I will tell you, to go seek professional help is great.
Yes.
It really is. It's the same way. So people come to us as with a toothache. So if you have a little headache kind of thing, sometimes it's great to go talk to somebody who can really give you some nice tools as well to help get through this. So there really shouldn't be any stigma. I think there's more of a stigma not looking for professional help than looking for professional help than not looking for it.
Yeah, I used to say that there were two things that I thought that every dentist needed. Two people. One was a professional trainer, and one was a therapist. Because we take a lot home with us at the end of the day. It's not just the dentistry that we're doing. When your hands are on someone else's body, you're absorbing all of that stress and tension. And at the end of the day, how are you supposed to get that out? So exercise therapy, that's
right.
Those are two methods.
Right, and it's really good. A lot of us have good support groups, even with some of our colleagues. So I think it's always good sometimes to reach out as well. It was great. I had dinner with a group of colleagues last month, and it just felt like a 2-hour therapy session while we were eating steak.
That's nice.
And I felt so good afterwards. And they wouldn't accept my insurance, but that was okay. It was well worth it. So, big believer in that.
Yeah. So I don't know how many of you have heard the saying that if you need a job done, give it to a busy person. But the reason is that when you're very, very busy, you don't have time to mess around. So in the tiny amount of time that's allocated for a task, you need to get that task done. There's no way around it. So it is a bit of a trick to remain productive without sacrificing the time for your own personal pleasure, and you have to find ways to do that. And mainly, I think the mantra has to be that you're working to live rather than living to work. So this career and this profession that we both hold very dear and high in our lives, it's still there mainly to support what it is that we hold most dear in our lives. So I think the task is to figure out what those things or who those people are, and then make sure that you are structuring your life, including your work life, so that the things that are most important to you are attended to and you're not putting them off for later.
I always like to tie things into business. For you out there that have, bought a practice, you went to the bank to get a loan, you had to create a business plan just to borrow money. Yet, did you make kind of a life plan for yourself so that, and I have to say, Dr. Peltz made me write one of the articles, when is enough enough? And that really is something that, when we're doing that roadmap for retirement, for our careers, for our lives, we really need to have that so that, number one, you'll eventually realize, that you're happy at a younger age, not when you're much older or when it's too late. And it'll actually help you reduce your ego so that you will feel so comfortable in the position because you reached your goal. And success is measured so many different ways. And how you measure your success is the only thing that matters.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions or comments for us? We're about to have another commercial.
Right, so this is sort of the finale. We're going to get the fireworks going and everything else. But we want to just mention once again, that at Doccupations, we want you to follow us on social media, share us with your friends, let everybody know and join us, and, keep spreading the word. And at this point, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We hope you got something out of it. I know I did. And thanks for the therapy session, because I feel a heck of a lot better now. So,
please forward this video to all of your friends who didn't make it for the live session. And join us next month. Join us next month. Check out Facebook and find out what we're talking about next time. Good night.
Good night.